Welcome back, my little friends, to the show that apparently never ends. It's First Ring Daily.
Yeah.
How's Paul? Nobody has commented on this lady, but lately, but your
On this
camera,
lady.
your camera
Yes.
is very high definition.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know why. Nothing has changed.
except maybe Teams. I don't know. You are no longer in the 640 by 480 dungeon over there, and
Yeah. I mean, don't hold your breath. It's probably going to change back at some point, but let's enjoy it while it lasts.
yep.
Because what could be better than my face in high definition? Yay. Yep. Sorry.
Well, Paul, we didn't formally discuss this, but we are going to discuss it right now. I believe this is going to be the last podcast until Build, basically because I'm out tomorrow and the next day doing golf, and then you have travel on Friday, and
Yep.
I think it's time for our new
Build
probably
prediction show.
annual tradition. It's what do you want? What do you, Paul Thurrott, in Pennsylvania, want from Build?
Hi, Brad. Longtime listener, first time caller. No, I mean, even before the change in the schedule, my number one thing was always going to be, what are they going to say about Windows? And my expectation was always that, and by always, I mean like over the past 2 weeks, was that they were going to try to put on a happy face to the stuff that's happening with Windows, that nothing is wrong, moving full steam ahead. We've got all kinds of awesome stuff we're working on. And now that they've added a second day keynote, right, on the same day that Google I/O is doing their keynote, which I think is a huge mistake, by the way, that only reinforces this notion in my head. And maybe this isn't the right place for opining on that, but I think that's the wrong approach. You know, I've referenced a lot in recent weeks about all the conversations I've had with Microsofties in the wake of Terry Myerson's dismissal. And one of the guys I talked to at great length, actually on a couple of different occasions over those couple week period was someone I had talked to back in the day when Steven Sinofsky was falling apart and, you know, Terry Myerson was coming in. And they were talking up the new strategy for Windows 10 at the time. And what he had said to me at the time was, I don't understand why they don't just treat this like what it is, which is a product in maintenance mode, and just support it for the enterprise customers that need it and for the consumers that get it with their new PCs. Of course, you know, you support new hardware and new chipsets and things like that. But the notion that this thing is somehow exciting on like a yearly basis or now on a biannual basis, you know, at the time, this was like 3 years ago-ish. Actually, it was over 3 years ago, whatever. It was ludicrous to him from inside of Microsoft, you know. And I at the time, I didn't really fully agree with that, and part of the reason was that, you know, this is how I kind of came up in the world as an enthusiast, you know, for Windows in particular, Microsoft in general, but it started with Windows, and I still have a hard time. I think a lot of people do, separating, you know, the past, which was glorious in some cases, from the present, which is kind of muted. And anyway, I think them coming out the way I expect them to is going to be a mistake, is a long story short. Sorry, that was such a long story, but I feel like they can't help themselves, right? In the same way that enthusiasts sort of still have this innate belief that things can be like they used to be. I think Microsoft does too. You know, I think they're, at least that part of the company, can be a little bit delusional when it comes to this stuff. So that's the big thing. There's a lot of stuff I think is going to happen, but that's the big one. An overemphasis on everything is okay. What about you?
I've got a lot of things, Paul. I put some thoughts into this. You kind of hit on it. I want to understand what the direction is for Windows. I think everybody's kind of not looking for that pat on the back, but just that kind of like, you know what, here's the roadmap. We're going to be real transparent about it. This is where we're going. Specifically when it comes to ARM.
That would be good.
Yeah. What's the deal with ARM? Where's that going?
Nowhere fast, yeah.
Anything positive in that regard. I also want to hear about Cortana. We haven't heard anything lately in any direction. It's like, what's going on with it? You know, are you guys... They're not giving up on it, obviously, but some sort of like encouragement, like, hi-ho, look at what we're doing.
If you haven't looked at this, by the way, I think it was PC World, and I think it was Mark Chapman. Mark Hatchman, I think is his name. I apologize if I butchered that. He's a good guy. Sometime in the past 15, 30 days, whatever, they gave him the interview that they gave us the year earlier, which was, this is what we're going to do with Cortana over the coming year. You might want to read that if you haven't seen it. It's a lot of the same kind of stuff, frankly. But yeah, I think there's a whole Cortana plus IoT plus smart home thing that they need to either jump in full force or just stop pretending.
Yep. And then on the always popular Azure side of life, I'm going to be curious to see how they are going to shove more cloud services onto on-premises, because that has been the theme of everything, and I don't see that train slowing down anytime soon. And so I expect we'll see a lot more of that. I don't know if they're going to announce any new data centers, but that's just kind of old hat at this point since they've got so many of them.
Sure.
And then I think IoT is going to be a big component about how developers can get up and get running with that stuff. And we'll see if they have any surprises up their sleeves, like an updated HoloLens or anything along those lines.
Yeah, that could be something for day 2 for sure. Obviously, Build is a developer show, and you kind of have to look at what the message is for developers. Day 1, the message is going to be about the cloud, obviously IoT, I'm sure.
Yep.
The day 2 stuff gets kind of interesting because Microsoft's been very consistently updating the Windows SDK as these new versions of Windows comes out. There is still not a single high-profile example of any important application that takes advantage of any of that stuff. Like I just don't see that ever happening. But the other side of that coin is, well, how does Microsoft bring their developer base, because it is several million strong, right? It's a big audience, forward to new things. And we've seen initiatives like Xamarin on mobile or PWAs on the web, which becomes an app in Windows 10. And I think there needs to be an update of that thing. In past years, we saw things like the bridges and so forth. And I kind of made a joke about this on Twitter today, but we as Microsoft fans, I guess, keep looking for that next thing that's going to make the Windows Store relevant or the Microsoft Store relevant. And iTunes clearly is not doing it, and why would it? It's a 12-year-old app or whatever it is, like 15-year-old app, whatever. Where does this thing go? And I think this is not a developer vision. In fact, this is technically it is a developer vision. I think there's a future for the Microsoft Store that makes lots of sense and that kind of ties into Microsoft's overall strategy for Windows moving forward. And I will probably write this up, but the short version is that if you look at the way that desktop apps work in the store through these, what are essentially containers, that thing should be the platform for moving forward. That it's okay not to allow someone to download arbitrary code from the internet and run it as a desktop app if you provide a way to contain that code and run it safely, right? And they can do that through the store, which is cool. But I think it should be kind of a Windows-wide technology where, I download doesn't matter what it is, Chrome, and that this thing is going to be sandboxed. It's going to be protected from the system and vice versa, really. And that's what makes it okay. And the idea obviously is we want to keep moving forward to a more modern code base, but we need a way to run this other stuff. We need a way to do that is safe and predictable and reliable and all that kind of stuff. And I think they really, I know they just want to move forward and pretend the other stuff doesn't exist, but there's this 95% of the Windows world is that other stuff. Right. They can't ignore it. And I hope they offer something up to that regard, because it's nice that they offer the capability to developers, but only a few have taken advantage of it. And there are a handful of really good high-profile apps like Spotify or Adobe Photoshop Elements that are in the store, but you can kind of see the lack of interest because that's really all that's there. Maybe they need to make this something automatic that you just get for using this modern version of Windows. I don't know.
I tend to agree, because you can't, even though Windows, we talk about it in sort of past tense phrasing anymore, there's still roughly 700 million people using Windows 10 and even more using just Windows as a whole. So it's not like it's a small, niche little group. It's a substantial portion of the population is still using Windows.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that, Windows 10 on ARM is a good example of this. Windows 10S is a good example of this. Microsoft is pointing us to a future that I think all of us can kind of nod our heads and say, yeah, that future looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But the compromise they're asking us to make, that they're really kind of demanding us to make when you use one of these systems, is it comes at the expense of running that thing that we would think of as a Windows application,
Right.
And instead of forcing us to make that compromise, I feel like they can still move forward, but offer us a safer way to run those Windows applications,
Mm-hmm.
like the even if there was a little performance hit, I think not most people, but a lot of people I think would be okay with that. And then over time, see how that effort to move forward goes. I mean, but it hasn't gone at all. And I don't know how you stand up on a stage and pretend otherwise. I mean, every year the build comes in, it's like, here's our new stuff, woohoo!
Yeah.
Yep. And it kind of ignores the fact that for the past 5 years, no one, or 6, 10, whatever years, no one has adopted any of it. That all of those previous announcements have amounted to basically nothing.
Yep. And then, Paul, we're going to go with wild card guesses that you're just guessing that you would love to see, but you have no idea. I would actually love to see them go up on stage and just announce a refresh to the chips that are in a lot of their products, including like the Surface Studio, the laptop, and all that good stuff. Nothing, no form factor changes, just here's the new silicon. Because that's not worthy of an event. Yeah.
Yep. Just do that. Look, I want USB-C and Thunderbolt 3 badly. I really do. But just doing that, I think, would be okay, for now. As part of your notion of Windows 10 talking about the roadmap, they could discuss that. Like, we are going to begin the transition to this new technology, but we wanted to give our fans this gift, which probably would not require almost any change internally, other than desocketing some chips and adding better chips, basically. I know that's oversimplification, but yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And then the other thing would be, which we know is coming, would be the Surface Hub 2. They've talked about it. This isn't quite the event for it, but they very clearly said we will announce it and then it will ship at a later point.
So, it will happen. It will happen at the show. I think that feels right to me. They've used Build before to, I think, announce it or at least show it off. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen it at Build before, so yeah.
Yep.
If you want to talk pie in the sky, it's a developer show, so there's a couple things I think make tons of sense. I found it really disturbing, frankly, that if you look at Microsoft's couple of big announcements about 1803 this past week, not one of them even mentioned progressive web apps. Not one, not even in passing. That includes articles that had a big section of here are the improvements in Microsoft Edge. There was a Microsoft Edge article that was specific to the Edge developer blog that did mention PWAs, but it wasn't even the big part of it. It was just like a little mention. I would like to see them come out and they could make a big announcement. Imagine if there was a Google announcement around PWA. That's just pie in the sky stuff, but
right,
that would be amazing. The other way I think they I mean, this might be the last gasp at getting people to get excited about something that makes literally no sense. But if they really want to shoot for the moon, let's announce this Andromeda Surface Phone, whatever the frick it is, dual screen, tablet-y, whatever, and give people a reason to get excited, even if it's something that's not going to come out in the next 6 months, and say, hey, we just wanted to confirm we are working on this thing. We intend to ship it maybe by the fall. This is what we're looking at. We want to get feedback now and see how you would change it if you could. These are the markets it addresses. This is why we're making it.
Right.
There's that. And then I guess the other thing I would just throw out is Microsoft phones, running Android. If you look at what HMD has done with Nokia, mm-hmm. as a brand, but also as a lineup of phones which are very high quality, I think there is an opening there for Microsoft to have the same type of market in phones that they do in PCs, which is not a big market, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be a valuable and profitable market. And it gives them that thing. Remember that the very name Surface comes from this notion that you have a hardware device that provides a surface for Windows. It's a way to surface all of the new features in Windows. They still use this terminology. I think there was a blog post this week talking about new PCs that surface the functionality. Oh, no, they said light up in that one, but it's the same type of terminology. They need a way to surface the functionality that they make for mobile that's enabled by default and just there. And I think there's a market out there of individuals who are enthusiasts, consumers who still value the Microsoft brand, and also businesses, obviously, that want that end-to-end experience because they're not giving up Windows PCs, but they want a better way to integrate when with that stuff they're using on the PC when they're out in the world, Timeline and Edge, and obviously the Microsoft Office apps and so forth. I would love to see something like that because I think it could make sense, and it would happen without any of the what's the overhead, I guess, of the Nokia factories and facilities and employees and all their pensions and healthcare plans and all that stuff. That was all the 90% of that billions of dollars that they spent on that was that stuff. They could do this without losing money. I mean, they should do this.
There you go. Those are the bold predictions from Brad and Paul. Please don't write these up as factual news or hold us to them, but they are dreaming out loud because I know somebody but Brad.
Farad predicts Surface Phone twice. What a jerk.
And he's also promising a Service Hub 2 for everyone to take home.
So. That's right. That's going to be the gift.
But
if can I check this, or do I have to? Can I carry it on?
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know if this will fit up here.
Yep.
If you are going to be at Seattle and at Build on Tuesday, May 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Pine Box Bar. That's where we're all going to be hanging out. Make sure to stop by, grab some delicious food and brew or whatever it is. I will definitely be there, although my flight leaves at 10:55 that night, so I will probably be leaving promptly at 8.
So the good news for you is, and the bad news for anyone else who wants to get to this thing, is that it's not right downtown. It's out in Queens Anne. Mm-hmm. Queens Anne is... I guess it's on the southwestern part of Seattle. So for you, it's actually going to be pretty good because you'll be a little closer to the airport. And if you get an Uber or however you're planning to get there, you'll be you're a little further south. So that'll be pretty good. But people who want to attend will want to look at this thing on a map. I'm not saying you couldn't walk there, but I don't think anyone's going to want to walk there. You're probably going to want to get a taxi or an Uber.
Yeah, we're going to have to get there early because I'm going to have to find a place to stash the suitcase. Is going to be the...
Right. Right. Yeah, Mary Jo worked really hard with Colleen over at Twit to make this happen. It until as recently as yesterday, we were talking about it, and it was like, look, we can't really find anything. We might have to just do an impromptu. Look, we'll be at this bar at this time, kind of thing. But these guys opened up for us, so that was good.
They're making it happen. That is what happens when you're Mary Jo. A couple other things, folks. You're probably going to be getting an email here from all of us soon. We're making some changes to premium, not major changes. Mostly, actually, they're all in the beneficial, especially for just about everybody. I don't know who wouldn't be. The first, the first major change is that the price was typically $64. We are lowering that to 55 bones going forward. So that's always a everyday new low price. I think, as one major retailer who will remain anonymous would call it. Would be $55. Alpha users, which we know make up a good sizable reader base for us, it'll stay at $42. But as I made the promise many years ago, we are holding fast to it. The alpha member rate will always be the lowest available, and it will always be $42 or lower, I believe, at this point going forward. And here's the one little hitch in all of this is that, and this is why you're going to get an email from us, is that you have to re-sign up. And it's not
you may have to, right?
You may not have to. We've identified who's going to have to do it, and realistically all you're going to have to do is just click a button. And I just kind of want to paint a picture why. We use third-party processing because Paul and I don't want to store your credit card data. I wouldn't want to be responsible for your credit card data. That would just be bad on all parts. We use services like Stripe and other very well-known and very secure services. Because of other sites that could abuse things, imagine you signed up for a subscription for $42 a year. What if we just went on that back end and made it $900 a year, and then Paul and I went on a very nice vacation? Well,
that sounds pretty appealing, actually.
It is. It's actually very appealing.
Why don't we do that?
Fortunately, these third-party services don't allow you to change subscription pricing. It can't be done. You have to sign up for a new subscription. So we've made a process that makes it very easy. You just click a button, and it rolls you into the new subscription with very minimal overhead. But you have to actually do it yourself, and you will get an email and prompted to do that. But this makes it easier for everybody because then you will save money. at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah. So depending on when your subscription renews, if you have a subscription, you'll receive a different email because it varies. And for people who just resubscribed or were about to resubscribe because of the timing of their initial subscription, you could actually be getting money back, right? So the only issue is you have to just go through a little wizard. It's like, I agree to do this. I'm going to cancel my old subscription. I'm going to start this new subscription. You'll have whatever the new end date is, and then you get some kind of a refund, like $6 or $4 or, depending on what the timing is.
When you sign up.
It's prorated, I think it's the term. And then the nice thing for us is that it gets us on a more modern and automatic system, maybe is the better way to put it, for the future. Because, as we adjust the pricing of Thurrott Premium over time, because you never know what could happen in the future or whatever, this makes it easier to do this. And we won't bore you with the differences between memberships and subscriptions because we have both. But it was a complex process. We should take our hats off to Tim for doing the heavy work on this.
Yep.
He showed us the work. He showed us the code. I think Brad actually fell asleep during that part of it, but it was mind-numbingly difficult stuff. And we'll see how this goes. But sometime over the next, today? It's happening today, right? So we're going to start this change. And we'll see how that goes. But, there's no bad news for anybody. There's no part of the audience, if you pay or don't pay or whatever, that there's nothing bad is happening of any kind. And I think the cool thing here, the really cool thing, aside from us internally and being able to get on this better, more automatic system, is if you are an alpha member, meaning someone who signed up for the Thurrott Premium in the very early days before it was officially live, what we're guaranteeing now, which I guess we didn't in the past, was that your subscription price will always be whatever the lowest price is. Mm-hmm. And I think we had a renewal option at one time that was $42, which is not available to anyone now. But that is what you folks will renew at if you're an alpha member. So that's cool. It's nice. It's nice to be able to reward people in that fashion.
And as always, we appreciate all of the premium and non-premium subscribers and anybody who's watching the show, hopefully not hog-tied in a basement and against their will, willingly watching the show. But
sure.
Here we are.
This is the part of the internet that the North Koreans allow through. These two idiots.
They just
this is why we hate America, folks.
Speaking of America, Paul, cleaning my grill.
Yeah.
It got a little.
Brad, you know what I did today? I just went outside.
Yeah.
I went for a walk. I just went for a walk.
It's 70 freedom units right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably like 22.
I'm kind of bothered that I'm going to Seattle in a couple of days because it's going to be literally in the 70s, even in the 80s.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future.
Yep.
I haven't looked at the weather in Seattle. It could be awesome, actually, but I have a hard time believing it's going to be as good as it's going to be here.
We're going to check right now. If weather.com ever loads. There we go.
Please tell me I don't need to bring a jacket. This is really what I'd like to avoid.
I'm still trying to figure out how to
bring up the weather app in Windows 10.
No, I'm just
Let's
on
see
weather.com.
what AccuWeather forecast says for Seattle. Yeah. Oh, actually, it's not bad. 60s. Oh, wait, where are we going here? Saturday, 60s. Oh, no, it gets 70s, up to 70.
Low 70s.
Yeah. Yep. Mostly sunny, too. That's good. That means, what is it at night, though? 50. It's a little cool, but I could probably get away with it. 54.
It'll be chilly in the evening, but it'll be good for like pants and short sleeves or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably humid there, right? Because they're on the water, so it probably won't be freezing at night.
Mm-hmm. We got anything else for today, Paul?
No, it's kind of weird. It's Tuesday, and this is literally the end of the week for us.
Yep.
Andrew told me we're not doing the podcast today. He's super busy at work. So I told him what I will tell you, which is that I'm going to do something this afternoon that involves the sun and the wine.
Mm. You're going to podcast in the sunny valleys?
Oh, there's not going to be any podcasting. Maybe some Instagramming.
Yeah.
No. How about you?
Nope. I'm golfing tomorrow. I am golfing the next day, hopefully, as long as it's not raining. And, yep.
Right. Well, enjoy Are you literally taking these days off? You're out of the office?
I mean, you can message me. I mean, I have my phone on me, but I'm not going to be home. I mean, we're golfing places we're going places that are too far to go on a weekend. So they're 90 minutes away. Should be great courses.
That's great.
But
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I expect to see some photos. I assume you'll be posting about this.
As is tradition, I actually just looked up the course we're going to tomorrow, which my friend picked, who I now hate because I am terrible at courses. I believe the technical term is dogleg left, or as I call it, my ball always goes to the right. And so the first hole is a dogleg left. And I'm sure he saw that and said, that's where we're going, because he's going to get a couple strokes on probably the first hole. So
yeah, it's like when you have a left-handed batter and you see the entire outfield shift. You know, like we know with a 90% certainty that ball's coming over here.
Yep. So, all right, folks. Well, that wraps it up for the week. We will be back next week with Build and covering all that goodness. You can check it out on Petri and Thurrott. We will be covering that. We'll also be doing our behind-the-scenes video stuff and all that jazz. And so, have yourselves the rest of a wonderful week, and we'll catch you next time from Seattle.